Anyway, two birds, two bets, and of course, our favorite group of all, the crazy people. The wifey and I are going to get into a little topic here. Can you still meet somebody, a significant other, a woman, in Dumaguete? I don't think you're going to like the answer, but I'm going to go over that topic. I got a lot of inquiries online about it. I get a lot of inquiries in person about it. And I'm going to tell you a little tidbit right now. Dynamics have changed. And I'm going to get into what I think are the whys and the hows and the reasons behind it. So that's what's coming up in this video. Okay, we'll see you in a second. All right. Well, as I said in the little introduction there, I don't think this is going to be good news for you. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I like to be brutally honest with you. I don't think Dumaguete has the same allure for meeting somebody that it did when I first arrived here. You and I were talking earlier about when we first met.
Yes.
And I knew I had a lot of female friends. she's she's forbidden me from ever seeing again. But there was this weird dynamic. Not weird. It was actually kind of a cool dynamic when I first moved here. When I would drive down the street, I was a curiosity. People would stop and look at you because I had a white face and,
Yeah.
the white hair, and I looked different from the rest of the population. And so, even walking through the mall, people would stop and just kind of look at you, and they weren't flirting or anything like that. Again, it was more of a curiosity, and I think over the years, a lot of people have migrated here, and so being a foreigner, white, black, doesn't matter what, the novelty has sort of worn off. I also think that Dumaguete has changed. Um, I cannot put my finger on it, but there's a couple of common denominators. Number one is the pandemic.
Yes.
Every time that, I mean, up until the pandemic, what I just described about the curiosity and all that kind of stuff was alive and well. And then the pandemic struck, and there was about 2 years of isolation, and a lot of foreigners left. So there was a big attrition. So there weren't that many of us here during that time, probably cut in half, if I had to guess. So I would think in my mind, well, there's less of us, therefore, there's the curiosity factor would go back up, but it didn't. When we did go out during the pandemic on those days that we were allowed, the people's whole tone and attitude, and including my own, changed. Everybody had to wear a mask. We couldn't see each other smile at one another. We couldn't make facial contact or expressions anymore. Everybody was pretty freaking grumpy. Me, the locals, everybody. It was just a horrible time. Now, what has that got to do with dating? Well, when they finally lifted the restrictions, there were a ton of guys that moved out here. So, there's probably, more competition, if you want to call it that. And also during that time, a lot of the local Filipinos and Filipinas, if they didn't live here or they had come here to work or whatever, they bailed out during the pandemic. They went home. They went back to their province, their different island, and they were there for 2 years. And so there's a lot of attrition there. Now, you would think, things being as they are, that they would come back, or at least others would move here. But for some reason, and I really can't put my finger on it, that time seems to have just come and gone. So you can tell me in the comments what your opinion of this is. But I think it's number one, the fact that um, there's it's been so long that there's been so many of us here coming and going that the novelty is worn off. I think that there's been a number of expats that have come here that have behaved very badly. And I'm not talking about any isolated incidences, things you may have been hearing on the internet. I'm just saying that their behavior is there's a lot of rude dudes here. I don't know how else to put it. And I think that's throughout the Philippines. There's this attitude of entitlement and I'm this and I'm all that. And it comes off very poorly. So I think that's one of the factors. Um, and the other thing that I've noticed recently that's changed a lot is that there's a lot more affluence here in Dumaguete. There's a larger growing middle class. And I'll be the first to admit that a lot of women will hook up with a guy that's got an age gap just due to financial stability. Um, I could go in so many different directions with that, but it would take forever, and I don't want this video to go on. But I'm also seeing a lot of younger foreigners show up. Sikihor, for example, has turned into Party Central. The whole complexion of that island has changed. It used to be, talk about sleepy. Boy, we would go over to Sikihor and you'd drive around and we'd be like one of, out of everybody, there'd be like 5 or 6 people that look like me. And now it is got, I think, 65 new bars. And I talked to a guy the other day who lives over there, and he moved. He said because every backpacker, every youngster, every 20 and 30-year-old goes to Sikihor and they're partying, like it's 1999. He said there was 1,000 people on the beach during the weekend drinking and having a good time. So the crowd has gotten younger. I think that the females, being females, obviously, if a 30 or 40-year-old good looking guy comes into town and he's available, they're naturally going to be more attracted to him than they would be to someone like me. May, you're probably thinking right now, the snarky ones want to say, oh, yeah, May's the same way. But you've always told me from day one, and you've stuck to it for 5 years. So I got to believe it's true. You don't like younger guys.
No,
And why is that?
because they have people told me is young guy is very aggressive.
Very aggressive. Um, I understand where she's coming from. That she is kind of a unicorn in that she likes to have a very sedate, low key lifestyle. And when I first got here, I was in more of, I don't know, not party mode, but get out and go mode. But as time progressed, I changed also. I'm 7 years older, for one thing. I met a significant other. And I think that Dumaguete, on the bright side, is a fantastic place to live if you are with somebody already. I don't find it to be a place to meet somebody. Now, you may say, "Oh, I'm crazy," and that's fine. I might be because again, I'm not in the dating scene. But what I'm hearing from guys is that the only real nightlife is that one nightclub, and a lot of that are ladies of the evening or lady boys or whatever, and not necessarily somebody that you would want to settle down with long term. So I don't pretend to know where the best city or town or province or island is to meet someone. The only thing that I could recommend or suggest, if it was me and I was single today, is online with a reputable
Christian Filipina.
Christian Filipina would be one. Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard good feedback from them about, not from them, but from people that have used them, because there's just so many different ways that you don't know what the person's all about when you're talking to them online, unless you talk to them for a long time. I actually met a lot of people strictly on Facebook. So I think Facebook would be my number one choice if it was me. And I think that if you like the vibe of Dumaguete, I'll give you the pluses. Dumaguete has got plenty of restaurants, coffee shops,
Yes.
modern amenities. They don't have the world's greatest hospitals, but they've got hospitals. Um, they've got beaches, not the world's greatest beaches, but if you snoop around a little bit, you can find the good ones. Mountains. Um, it's still it's very foreigner friendly. But as far as meeting somebody, um, I'm just not feeling it. I just don't see the dynamic. So I guess going online, and she likes Christian Filipina. I do too. I think that it's a good
Yes.
site for people. She's advised some of her friends to use it. Um, but at the end of the day, this is a great place to set up camp and use as a base camp. You've got so many different ways to get off of here. You've got a ferry, you've got a plane, you've got a bus,
Yes.
and then you got your own transportation to travel around and whatnot. But as far as being a big fish in a small pond, I think those days are come and gone. I don't know. The pandemic is just keeps coming into my head on this whole enchilada. Um, I just think it changed everybody in many different ways for a lifetime. And it had a huge impact on the Philippines. You would think that once it opened back up, that everything would resume to normal. But I just have not seen that happen. Again, Dumaguete, awesome place to live in my mind. Just because of the variety, the availability, the circle of friends.
Yeah.
Some guys don't want to be around a lot of foreigners, and I get it. And you know what? I wouldn't cross Dumaguete off my list because of that. They say, oh, there's so many foreigners there. Well, I would beg to differ. It actually is a fairly small percentage, and Google it if you don't believe me, of the percentage of foreigners living in Dumaguete relative to the indigenous population. So I don't think it's that. I think that it's just it's not attracting young females or females period that are looking for or wanting to meet a foreigner. I don't know, maybe the allure of meeting a foreigner has worn off entirely. um, there's a much bigger and expanding middle class here in the Philippines, I mean in Dumaguete, and so that may be affecting it. It's a college town, so the young kids, the young women, young men are all socializing together, going out drinking and dancing on their weekends off, or at the coffee shops studying. If I go to Tom Tom's in the morning, which is a coffee shop, it's mostly
Foreigner.
yeah, 4 foot, 5 foreigners. She's
Yeah.
right. If I go at 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
All Filipino.
all Filipinos with their laptops open, doing their homework,
Yeah.
and I come rolling in, and nobody even looks up. Where again, 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was not the case. That was just there was that curiosity factor. So I don't know. I don't want to go as far as saying that foreigners have ruined it for that dynamic, but there have been just some guys that have just been overly rude, and I think that kind of has gotten out there a little bit that we're not that desirable when we have these loud, obnoxious arguments with people in public. Someone gets your order wrong, and a guy will demand to speak to the manager. That's the kind of crap that just drives the rest of us that love it here crazy because we get lumped into that pot of negativity. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that there's a lot of ladies here that are single and available and looking for foreigners, or do you think it's less like it was
I
back?
think less.
You think so too?
Less. Yeah.
And the ladies that we meet or talk to, um, you're not that impressed with a lot of them.
No.
You don't really,
Yeah.
in other words, she doesn't feel, and I have to agree with her in a lot of cases. Sometimes we meet up with people and the guy just met the lady and they're sitting there talking to us and she's really good at sizing people up, a lot better than I am. And I go, what do you think? She says, oh,
Observant.
she's not really into him. You know, she's into his wallet.
Yes.
And so
I look in the eyes first.
she's, and you know what? Um, her and I used to actually bicker about that. And I'd say, you're too judgmental. You know, you're too this, you're too that. But I got to confess, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Her gut is pretty strong. And then you met someone the other day.
Yes.
And you really liked her.
Yes.
And it has no rhyme or reason to it. But if she says it, I believe it because I just trust her judgment. So, what's the moral of the story? I don't know. I would say that Dumaguete um, is a great place to live. Yeah, I would say that it's probably not that great a place to try and date. Doesn't mean that you can't live here, set up camp, maybe go online or go on a road trip or whatever. There's a lot of younger guys right now in their 40s that are traveling all through the Philippines. And what their goal is number one, they want to see the world. They want to see the Philippines. They want to experience the different places. Um, some of them are looking to find a place out in the country. Um, some people are looking at metropolitan areas. They're checking prices, budgets, all that kind of stuff. But they're also, when I talk to them, they're looking for a significant other. And you told me today that when we meet people and we're talking to guys and they're frustrated about their lack of success, and you took it as a insult. You thought it was disrespectful.
Yeah.
She didn't understand the context. I had to explain it's different for the Philippines than it is for Americans. But she would say, well, what are you looking for in her own way? And he said, I want to meet someone just like you. And she thought, God, that's rude, you know, because I'm with him. And I had to explain to her, no, that just means it's a compliment. It's like they like you, they like your morals, they like your demeanor and your loyalty and all that kind of stuff. So that's just a little tidbit there. I don't know, guys. I've been promoting, I guess, unconsciously Dumaguete because I just like it. I think that it works for me. Will it work for you? I got no clue. I think that it's worth a try, but other guys have been in Dumaguete and they've just given up and they said, no, I'm moving here, I'm moving there. They don't like it. They don't like this. They don't like that. The roads are rough. I could go on and on. But as far as the dating scene goes out here, guys, again, I've been out of the market for over 5 years. I can't speak firsthand. These are all just observations and inputs and conversations with other guys, both online and in person. And they've been pretty much disappointed. So I hate to bring that news to you, but I call it as I see it. All right. I'll see you crazy people in the next video. Say bye, May.
Bye.
All right.